I'm really just trying to give back to the Bronx because the Bronx gave me so much. My name is Rhynna Santos, and I was born in Puerto Rico. And my parents, my father was born here in New York City, and my mom is from Puerto Rico. I have always loved photography from when I was very little. I would remember taking people's cameras at parties and just shooting whole rolls of film. My father also, he would take us to museums since I was a little kid, me and my siblings. And I love going to museums, to libraries, and you would see all of these paintings and photos of the past. But one thing I never saw was people that looked like me or people that looked like my family. Even after I left the Bronx, I went to college at UCLA in Los Angeles. And when I would say that I was from the Bronx, you know, the stereotypes. And I've been lucky to travel all over the world. And when I say the same thing, I'm from the Bronx, you know, regardless of what country or what city I'm in, it's the same type of stereotype and really negative questions about the Bronx or the association with violence. Things, you know, people are still talking about things that happened, you know, 20, 30 years ago. Once I joined the Bronx Documentary Center, I also was able to be part of the Bronx Photo League. And what we are is a group of 18 Bronx photographers. Our first group project that we did together was the Jerome Avenue Workers Project. What we are trying to really do with that project is to bring light to the possible rezoning of Jerome Avenue in the Bronx. And that would mean that 72 blocks of that avenue would be torn down. 18 of us last summer would walk up and down Jerome Avenue and try to get workers and people who live on Jerome to allow us to interview them and to take their portrait. And after an entire summer of shooting, we had our first opening show in September at Vasquez Motors, and we showcased 40 of our best portraits. It was incredibly successful. We were in the New York Times, which for most of us is the first time to have our work showcased in the New York Times. It was so incredible because it was not just showcasing work, but showcasing such important work about bringing light to the gentrification that is coming to the Bronx. The power of photography is that it really makes you slow down when you look at an image, because you have to take time. And especially in portrait photography, you're looking at someone's face, you're looking at someone's eyes, which really brings so much light. And if you do it well, you can capture something very important, a very important moment, a very vulnerable moment in that person. We just opened the Jerome Avenue's Workers Project, a new settlement on Jerome Avenue, and it's the third time that we're showcasing the show. And we hope to be able to show it as many times as possible, and again, to bring light to the rezoning that's happening on Jerome, to the people that are actually living there. And I know for me, as a female photographer, I chose to really concentrate on the female workers, on the women that worked on Jerome Avenue. This image was shot on the Botanica San Elias, and this is Miriam. And basically, I really had to work really hard to get this shot. This was actually my third time going to the Botanica. She would not pose for me, you know, and I would explain to her the importance of the project. And, you know, as a woman, she's like, I don't look pretty enough, not today. So I kept going back. And finally, on the third day, after a lot of talking, I was able to convince her to pose for me. She had a beautiful necklace on that day, and I just loved her energy. She seemed really, really tough. Well, my experience as a photographer, I really didn't have a lot of female photographers as role models. And, you know, I am part of a lot of groups with other photographers, but sadly, you know, in a lot of these groups, I would be the only woman or one of the only. And so in response to that, I decided to start my own group of photographers called the Bronx Women's Photo Collective. And we started this January. And, you know, we already have a show in March for Women's History Month. The main reason for the Bronx Women's Photo Collective is for us to network with each other, for us to be able to encourage each other to create really interesting unique work, and also for us to organize and to really be able to bring a lot of attention to issues that are happening in the Bronx that need attention. I also curate the Everyday Bronx feed on Instagram at Everyday Bronx. Also, you can hashtag Everyday Bronx. And the beautiful thing about the Everyday Bronx feed is that it's not just one of the official Everydays that was started with the Everyday Africa feed, but it is also a really unique feed. We are the smallest geographical feed because we only deal with a borough, and most of the feeds deal with either countries or continents, like Everyday Africa or Everyday Australia. And so what's beautiful about the feed and what I'm trying to do with this feed is that we feature photos that really tell the side of the Bronx that people don't see. I'm Rhynna, and this is the Bronx Focused.